Canada has been shaped by leaders who've left their mark on its history, but few families have made a bigger impact than the Trudeaus. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Canada's Prime Minister from 1968 to 1979, and again from 1980 to 1984, changed the country with bold policies like official bilingualism and patriating the Constitution. But his reign wasn't without controversy. Many felt he concentrated power in Ottawa and alienated provinces. Years later, his son Justin stepped into politics, inheriting not just the Trudeau name, but also promises of change. But Justin's time in office has been just as polarizing. In 2015, Justin became Canada's 23rd Prime Minister, promising sunny ways, a new era of hope, progress, and change. Climate action, improved immigration policies, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples were central to his vision. But soon, the sunny days would give way to dark clouds. In early 2022, Trudeau faced one of Canada's most controversial protests. The Freedom Convoy, originally protesting vaccine mandates for truck drivers, exploded into a nationwide demonstration against government overreach. Thousands took to the streets, blocking roads and demanding the government step back. Critics blasted Trudeau for dismissing protesters as a fringe minority with unacceptable views. But it was his decision to invoke the Emergencies Act, the first time in Canadian history, that drew the sharpest criticism. The law gave the government sweeping powers to freeze bank accounts, seize assets, and disperse the protests. While some saw it as necessary, others felt it was an overreach, and the debate raged across the country.
Protest.
When you say seized, they froze it. They didn't take their money. They just froze it. So they
froze their credit cards. They froze their mortgage payments. They locked them out. So they locked them out of the financial system entirely.
That is creepy.
It's really bad. In fact, one of the banks actually apologized. There's 5 big banks in Canada, and one of them actually apologized for doing it eventually.
Trudeau's reputation for transparency took a hit in 2017 when it was revealed he had vacationed on the private island of the Aga Khan, a spiritual leader whose foundation receives federal funding. The trip, complete with private helicopters, was a clear violation of ethics laws. The Ethics Commissioner found that Trudeau had broken multiple conflict of interest rules, the first time a sitting Prime Minister had ever been found guilty of such a violation. Many Canadians saw this as a sign of entitlement and a lack of accountability. Trudeau's government has also faced criticism over its approach to censorship. Bill C-18, the Online News Act, forces tech companies like Google and Meta to pay Canadian news outlets for content shared online. This led to many platforms blocking Canadian news altogether, leaving citizens without critical information. Trudeau's critics argued that laws like Bill C-18, combined with the Online Streaming Act, Bill C-11, give the government too much control over online content. Supporters say these laws protect Canadian journalism, but to many, it feels like a dangerous infringement on free speech. Under Trudeau, Canada's immigration policies have seen record-breaking numbers. The government has set a goal to welcome over 500,000 newcomers annually by 2025, an increase from previous years. In 2022 alone, Canada brought in over 437,000 immigrants, the highest in history. While these numbers have helped fill labor shortages and boost the economy, they've also created strain. In 2023, immigration accounted for nearly 98% of Canada's population growth, leading to housing shortages and soaring rent prices, especially in major cities. Supporters argue that immigration is vital for Canada's future, especially as the population ages. But without enough planning for infrastructure, critics warn these policies could create significant economic and social challenges. In response to growing inflation, Trudeau's government announced a $250 direct cash for eligible Canadians and a temporary GST break on essential items starting December 14th. While some see this as necessary aid, others believe it's just a short-term fix for deeper issues like long-term affordability. Some argue that Trudeau is using these measures to win back support as his approval ratings drop. As Trudeau faces mounting criticism, the future of Canada under his leadership is uncertain. with allegations of overreach, controversial immigration policies, and short-term economic measures. Questions about his legacy are more pressing than ever.
Is a villa that rents out commercially for as much as $9,000 per night. If any other Canadian had stayed there, that's what they would have to have paid, and they would have to pay for their own airfare, not having a private jet. This Prime Minister wants us to believe that these Trudeau Foundation donors offered him a $9,000 a night vacation for nothing. We know nothing is free, Mr. Speaker. This is about influence and power for the super rich.
While others warn that his policies could lead Canada down a path of division, economic instability, and curtailed freedoms, the big question remains: what will Canada look like if Trudeau remains at the helm? Justin Trudeau's time as Prime Minister has been far from ordinary. Whether you love him or hate him, his decisions will shape Canada's future for generations to come.